a National Geographic survey, 77% of all Americans believe there are signs that aliens have visited Earth. But despite this consensus, our governments have yet to acknowledge what many believe to be the truth behind extraterrestrials. Is disclosure just around the corner, as some believe, or has the UFO phenomenon always been a fabrication of the human mind? The evidence has been mounting that our governments indeed know more than they are telling. In recent years, a growing number of credible scientists and investigative researchers have been lobbying for the truth to be told. One of these advocates is Stanton Friedman, a top nuclear physicist who has worked for GM, GE, Westinghouse, Aerojet General Nucleonics, and McDonnell Douglas Aircraft. Friedman has published more than 90 UFO papers and has appeared in countless documentaries and hundreds of radio and TV programs, including Larry King.
And what it really would take would be a Woodward and Bernstein, who blew the lid off the political Watergate to blow the lid off the cosmic Watergate. The data's there. Quote General Bolender, show the NSA and CIA documents. You can't deny their reality.
Jim Marrs is the author of Alien Agenda, the top-selling non-fiction UFO book in the world. Marrs began teaching a course on UFOs at the University of Texas at Arlington in 2000 and has since appeared on ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, C-SPAN, as well as the Discovery, Learning and History channels.
Today, all you have to do is Google UFOs and look at the images, and you can't take a picture of an hallucination or a psychosis. So they're real. So the question now is, what is the alien agenda?
Stephen Bassett has been fiercely advocating the end of the 68-year government-imposed truth embargo regarding the ET presence. An executive of Paradigm Research Group, Bassett is the executive producer of the X Conference, the Citizen Hearing on Disclosure, and the Congressional Hearing Initiative.
We're facing the potential for a massive renaissance in science, in political reform, and none of that can happen because the governments of the world will not yet even acknowledge the existence of the ETs.
Kathleen Marden is known around the world for her work as an alien abduction ET contact researcher, author, and lecturer. She is recognized as the world's leading expert on the Betty and Barney Hill abduction case and is the recipient of MUFON's 2012 Ufologist of the Year award.
My research and the evidence and the scientific evaluation of that evidence has convinced me that this case is real and that it was being covered up by the government and by a small group of debunkers who wanted to make Betty and Barney look like kooks.
Ron James is a prolific filmmaker and writer. He is author of the book Messiah: Awakenings and has won many awards, including the EBE Award for ET-related films 4 times.
There are a lot of races throughout the universe, and that there's very, very many of them that are so far advanced beyond us that we probably can't even comprehend their technology or what they're capable of. And how we play into that, we don't know.
Patty Greer is one of the most devoted crop circle filmmaker researchers today, having produced 6 documentary films that have received prestigious awards. Greer's data brings metaphysics, ET technologies and science together to offer a clear understanding of this astounding phenomenon.
This is the most important story never told, how real this is on the planet, and the fact that all these people being well paid are being paid to not tell the truth. That's old paradigm. And all the money now is behind making sure it doesn't get out.
I'm not expecting there will be full disclosure. There are plenty of reasons for the government not to disclose what they have learned. Because if they learned any technological stuff, why should the U.S. put it on the table if the Russians and Chinese don't put on the table what they have learned?
If you're waiting on a government official to hold a big press conference and say, okay, here's the truth about UFOs, you're going to be waiting a long time, okay? Because any government official that would admit to that is then admitting that they've lied to us for 70 or 80 years.
We need to tell the world's people the truth. That's disclosure. Now, once that's happened, I anticipate a year or two of intense engagement of the issue by everyone. And after about a year or two, I think the planet will be collectively ready, not for disclosure, but rather for open contact. I have a feeling open contact will follow.
We Earthlings, will spend $1 trillion on things military. $1 trillion. While thousands of children die every single day of preventable disease or starvation. Nationalism is the only game in town.
There's just too much to lose, too much water under the bridge.
I'm very involved in the disclosure process politically, and I do believe that it serves a very, very important purpose. And that purpose is to keep the pressure on.
If you're doing this work with clarity, you're going to bring a lot of truth to the public.
The races of grays, and this is what I specialize in, are telling individuals that there is not going to be disclosure by them immediately.
In fact, I think we're undergoing a conditioning process right now through movies and TV and news accounts and sightings and abductions and crop circles, you name it. It's all around us, and more people are beginning to understand that this is a serious issue.
There is a program in the works so that we will be able to communicate with them and they'll be able to communicate with us.
I believe that there's kind of a plan to this, that it's been done before, and they have been helping to drive the process, that they want self-disclosure. Open contact is to follow.
What I believe is happening right now is that this political pressure is combining with all of the other different pressures coming from different places and the media to create an atmosphere where the knowledge is readily being distributed.
There will be a big discombobulation for the world.
It's possible they may lose their patience. If we drag this out long enough, they may be forced to do a force majeure disclosure event. There's a big difference between the world governments announcing to their citizens the presence of extraterrestrials and providing information, and extraterrestrials forcing their reality on the world's people outside of government involvement.
I know of no government on this planet that wants its citizens to owe their primary allegiance to the planet instead of that individual government. So I'm not expecting full disclosure. I don't want to see it. I want the government to say, yes, we're being visited. We're holding these international conferences to deal with the psychological, religious, technological, etc. aspects of that.
Full disclosure is only going to come from them, okay? And think about it. All they got to do is hover over a city long enough for the news crews to get out and take footage, and then the game's up.
Over time, they think that we will evolve to the point where we can establish communication, but it is at some point in the future. It is not going to happen immediately that I've received.
Telling the truth in times of universal deceit is a revolutionary act.
Look, the situation as we know it is this. There's an extraterrestrial presence. It's probably been engaging us for a very long time.
Well, I think, yeah, when you consider the universe is billions of years old, and I think even the Earth is somewhere like 4 billion years old, it's pretty hard to believe that us who have recorded history of like 4,000 years are the beginning of intelligent life on the planet. There's a lot of evidence on the planet that indicates that very advanced civilizations have come and gone.
Because you can look at these places and see that it was too perfect for us to do with the tools and the technology that we had at the time. Therefore, what was the other element that gave us the ability to create these wonderful things if it wasn't some sort of intervention?
UFOs are real, not something fictional or imaginary, and I think that's beyond dispute today. When I was a kid, they said, well, they're just hallucinations or some kind of mass psychosis, and of course, today all you have to do is Google UFOs and look at the images, and you can't take a picture of an hallucination.
There is an extraterrestrial presence. That's an absolute fact. It's not a theory. It's not a speculation. It's an absolute fact. Just because the government says, no, it's not, Well, that doesn't change that. And besides, anybody that believes the government these days is foolish. And the government has known about this ET presence. That's an absolute fact.
They're concerned about the malevolence of certain human groups, and they are attempting to interfere or intervene in our evolution at this point in order to bring us to a point where we won't destroy ourselves because they're afraid that we might do that.
I think they're here for their purposes. One of them was probably to quarantine us. If you were an alien, would you want us out there? Military budget $1 trillion this year. In World War II, we killed 50 million people. We destroyed 1,700 cities.
And I think the alien agenda is to observe and try to help kick the human evolution up the evolutionary ladder in a covert manner so that we will hurry up and become part of the intergalactic community instead of wiping ourselves out with thermonuclear weapons.
Andromedans are one of 139 planetary systems that comprise the Interstellar Alliance. We are and have always been the watchdogs of the universe for nearly 2 million years.
On the other hand, let's not act as if we're their equals. I don't talk to the squirrels in my backyard. I might say scat once in a while, you know. So we're not equals. People say, why don't they land on a White House lawn? The President of the United States does not speak for 7 billion Earthlings. That's pretty darn clear.
The universe is at least 13 to 14 billion years old. We have a young star. There were stars like ours and planets like ours billions of years before our star existed. So if life can develop on Goldilocks planets, which it does, there has been life in this universe going back billions of years before we existed. And so the idea that extraterrestrial civilizations have been engaging other planets and exploring the galaxy makes total sense. And so we very well have had extraterrestrial engagement going back as far as you want to go, even before this planet had a biosphere, maybe.
I think that they don't want us to kill ourselves, because if we do, we're going to destroy this beautiful planet as well. They use this planet too.
We have exploded 2,000 nuclear warheads on this planet, only 2 on people, thank goodness. We're not nice guys.
There seems to be a lot of circumstantial evidence that they have been here for thousands of years, but they seem to have stepped up their program. I don't know if they've done this in our past history, but they seem to have stepped up their program after we exploded atomic bombs. And they do say that they are very, very concerned about our behavior.
We have joined the community of planets that have learned that the major source of energy in the universe is nuclear fusion. All the stars, that's new information. We didn't know that 100 years ago. That means also that you could use fusion to go out there. So I think aliens have every reason to be concerned about the idiots on this planet taking their brand of friendship out there. That's hostility by everybody else's definition. So I don't expect them to treat us like, we're good guys, can we sit down and talk? I don't think so. There's no question that the truth about flying saucers has been covered up. If you look at 156 NSA Umbra UFO documents, you can read 1 sentence per page. That's a cover-up. I've got a bunch of CIA top secret Umbra UFO documents. They're all blacked out except for a couple words per page. That's a cover-up.
It's no longer about UFOs and hasn't been for a long time. It's an acronym. It's a
top secret Umbra UFO documents. They're all blacked out except for a couple words per page. That's a cover-up.
It's no longer about UFOs and hasn't been for a long time. It's an acronym. It's an anachronistic non sequitur. It's a government-sponsored propaganda acronym, and it doesn't apply at all. It's about extraterrestrials, extraterrestrial craft, and extraterrestrial engagement.
I'm not sure our government is in a position to negotiate policy with any of these species. I'm pretty sure that if there's been some sort of interaction, it hasn't been a negotiation. It's been a more like, this is how it is, and you're just going to have to deal with it.
We have the facts that were enunciated by Air Force General Carol Bolender. who was asked what should we do about Project Blue Book after the University of Colorado recommended it be closed, ostensibly the only UFO group that the government was mixed up with. And in a memo he wrote, which resulted in the closure of Project Blue Book, he said reports of UFOs which could affect national security are not part of the Blue Book system, which is an incredible statement. 2 paragraphs later, he said, if we close Blue Book, the public won't have a place to report UFO sightings. However, as previously noted, reports which could affect national security will continue to be investigated using the procedures designed for that purpose. I located General Bowler. This is 10 years after he wrote the memo. That's when I first found out about it. Talked to him and suggested, it sounds like you're talking about 2 separate communication channels. The important ones, the government-related ones, and I just had a case, I said, like a saucer going down the runway at a SAC base where nuclear weapons are stored. By definition, that's a national security problem. Or routine, if my wife and I go out at the end of the driveway and see a saucer fly over, no big deal. And he agreed with me. 2 separate systems. And I'm interested primarily in the ones that could affect national security.
Collectively, there is a 50% plus consensus. It's time to reveal this. But the military-industrial complex is not a democracy. It is not a vote. It is a much more complex decision.
Because we need to understand that the people with all the fancy equipment, I mean, I don't have my own radar system, for goodness sakes. The government does. Radar systems, gun cameras, other instrumentation on board, spy satellites, all this kind of stuff. And that stuff's all born classified. So it's not a conspiracy notion, it's the reality.
After that is a vast array of assertions, speculations, and theories that have varying degrees of probability attached. But we cannot assess that, or parse that, organize that, study that, because the government say there is nothing to study.
Look, there was a big explanation for Roswell, crash test dummies, stories about bodies. We were dropping crash test dummies all over the place. There are 2 major problems with that. None of them were dropped until 6 years after Roswell, and they were the same size and weight as pilots. By definition, they were checking on ejection seats. They were 6 feet tall, 175 pounds, made out of wood, and in Air Force gear, clothing, because that affected the drag and heating as you dropped them out of an airplane at a high speed, at a high altitude. So they got away with it. It was good enough for the New York Times. They bought it. The real problem is the failure of the press to do its job. It's a cosmic Watergate, and they're acting like it's Alice's Tea Party.
And any interstellar race could destroy this planet without really a lot of effort. We are like kindergarten children to them in terms of our ability to, quote, fight.
What if there's way more to the picture? What if there is a series of different alien races that all have a different agenda? And what if we really have no control over what our outcome's going to be?
We know that there could be hostile entities out there who have malevolent intentions toward us and toward our, maybe not toward our planet, but they may want our planet for their own needs.
Hollywood blockbusters, as well as independent films, have long capitalized on the public's interest in the UFO phenomenon. Richard Lowry's film utilizes actual case studies and depicts a looming alien invasion. His earlier film, Destination Mars, is a parody of the 1950s flying saucer movies, but subversively conveys the message that mankind's quest for destructive weaponry could result in our own annihilation by an alien race. The final speech from the alien leader proclaims this very clear warning.
I have studied the Earthlings for many eons, from their pre-evolutionary stages to this, their final hour. And it is this gain in knowledge which has enabled all other planetary civilizations the proper tools for adopting indomitable minds, minds forged of thought and reason, rather than brutish impulse. It was only a matter of time until they stumbled upon an atmospheric vaporizer. But what the foolish Earthlings did not surmise is our power in controlling their world. From their floods, to their fires, to their earthquakes, and even to their solar eclipses.
The elderly subject of Lowry's documentary, The Wilkesboro Incident, also sends the warning.
In eternity, where there is no Twisted, cannibalistic tracks like these. Little wandering Ulysses. Please don't adventures ever end. I know what's on the corner, I was dead on the bend. I'm in neutral, bouncing opinions of the unconcerned. Been moved along from bridges that's been burned up the sea. Yeah, tips all up on the sea. When it pulses together, ghosts in the machine. Memorize the lies where facts remain dormant. Skeletal remains, pick one's your opponent. Digging deep in the moment, switch on component. Currency, pure gold, negative flows through poems.
You can't remember your lives. You can change your lives.
Step by step, let me crawl, let me fall, let me lay down, please just let me be realistic, / optimistic. It's just a habit, I need a kick in it, a touch, spatial awareness, there's nothing much. Just a stage, just a gaze, nail as punches, honest the punch, pick of the bunch. I can take it, bend over backwards, back, bring it. Smile on my face, lines faded. Green eyes on the prize, we're really jaded. Lines are blurred, footsteps and cross paths never heard. Question I thought dissected and observed. I crawl back into the test tube, liquefied from the element. Reform leaving dirty sediment, sentiment. Just a little latitude at this altitude. 55 degrees north of this off-axis latitude.
And that is the terrible and secret fate of all life.
Radiated by the 4 elements, lost with all that's relevant. Education, they're negligent. I'm passing by and flying my colours, multiplied through the eyes of others. I'm on the level, but I need to turn down the gamma. Prolonged exposure to raise mutated my grammar. Gotta jam off my radio waves, secret from my cranium. When I don't feel like hearing them, I tune in and I just wanna drop the fuck out. Stop the chat, let's go, cause there's wrong what they're talking about. I feel half empty and the glass is smashed. I feel dulled down where genie is, so it's flush.
Deny our programming, stop reproducing, walk hand in hand into extinction. One last midnight, brothers and sisters opting out of a raw deal.